Hey there, studio families. I am sitting in my car, as I often am. I live a large part of my life in my car, so I'm sure you do too. And I thought I'd take a quick minute here to do a Parenting Tip Tuesday before I run in and teach a class in Kohler this morning. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can help our kids learn the skill of listening to us and responding to instruction. Some of you have talked to me already about how this is really difficult, and what do we do when our kids just don't seem to be listening. So here's the scenario. You are in the kitchen and your child is in the other room and you need them to do something. You need them to come in for dinner, you need them to get in the car, to get their shoes on, to go to bed, whatever it is. So you yell from the kitchen, not loudly, you just say, "Hey, Susie, it is time to come to dinner." And there is no response. So you are feeling fine, feeling patient. You wait a second, and you say, just slightly louder, "Susie, time for dinner, time to come into dinner." Nothing. So you're starting to get slightly irritated. There can't be any possible way that your child has not heard you. So you say, even a little bit louder, "Susie, do you hear me? Time to come in for dinner." And there is still no response. Let me tell you something here. Your child does hear you, absolutely does hear you. Your child is not listening. So there is a difference, and it is something, listening is a skill that we do need to practice, and we actually even practice this in Kindermusik every week, and I hope that you're finding ways to apply this at home to make your parenting easier. But here's the process to help your child listen. First, we need to understand that our brains are really meant to do one thing at a time. I know there's a lot of value placed on being multitaskers, but it really is not effective, and our brains are really just meant to focus on one thing at a time. That's where we are most effective, when we can just do one thing at a time. So your child is focused on something, even if it's just watching a show or whatever it is they're doing, they're focused on one thing. And by you requiring them to switch their focus, this is really a difficult task. And we need to understand this. We need to come to this situation with the understanding that they're not trying to annoy you. They're not trying to make your life difficult. They really are not. And so if you feel yourself getting irritated and upset and angry, go back to what we talked about a few weeks ago with that STAR idea of stopping, taking a breath, affirming yourself, telling yourself, "I can handle this. This is hard, but I can handle this," and relax, because you're not going to make any progress with your child's skill building if you are revved up and irritated and in your fight or flight mode in your own brain. So go back to STAR. Then next step, you need to go to them, and you need to get into their space. Yelling from the other room is just not effective, and not the way we want them to learn anyway. So you do need to go to their space, and the first thing you really do need to do is just acknowledge them. Acknowledge what they're doing. I see that you're watching this show. I see that you're playing this game. I see that you're whatever it is. Just acknowledge. Take a second to notice that, okay, I see that you're doing something right now. That's important to you. I see that. And then you need to see if you can find some ways to get their eye contact. So you can directly just ask, "Can you look at my eyes? Look at Mama's eyes. Look at Mama's eyes," because direction needs to be given when there's eye contact. And then once you've got eye contact, the next step, and this is really, really crucial, you need to tell them, in 1 minute, not right now, in 1 minute, Mom is going to ask you to come into the kitchen. Okay, so now here's what's really important. They need to say back to you verbally, "What is Mommy asking you to do?" Go into the kitchen. Okay, and they're not upset about it because you're not asking them to do it right now. You don't have to do it right now, but in 1 minute, Mom's going to ask you to come into the kitchen. Okay, then here's another really important step. When Mommy asks you to come into the kitchen, you need to say, "Okay, Mom." What do you need to say when Mom says come into the kitchen? "Okay, Mom." They actually have to verbalize it. There's something that happens in our brain when we can say it out loud. So in 1 minute, what is Mommy going to do? Ask me to come to the kitchen. What are you going to say? "Okay, Mom." Okay. Now, next week we'll talk a little bit about what you might want to include also is if you decide not to say, okay, mom, and you have a fit or you ignore me or whatever it is, this is what's going to happen. And we'll talk about that when they do have those fits. So we'll get there. I don't want to make these things too long for you. I know we all have short attention spans and short on time. So I just want to start with that process first of understanding our kids are not out to get us. They are not trying to destroy our lives and make us miserable. So calm yourselves down and then get into their space, acknowledge and affirm what they're doing, and understand their brain can focus on one thing at a time. Get eye contact. Tell them what you expect, what you are going to ask them to do, not at the moment. I know this takes time. This is frustrating because who has time for this? But we got to do it this way. And then have them say back out loud what's going to happen and what are you going to say when I ask you to do it. Okay, mom. All right. Next week, we'll talk about what happens when it all goes wrong. Have a great day, everybody. How do you finish this thing?